Happy Wednesday. Hope everything's going well with you where you're at. Everything's fantastic here. It's a day to celebrate. I got a little bit later start just because of the frustrations with technology, but here I am nonetheless. I'm glad you could join me today. It's a special day, and I'm doing something I haven't done. I'm bringing a guest on to interview them because today's a big day for me to celebrate, and I'm actually going to bring my wife on and just celebrate with her because it's a special day. So let's see if we can bring her on. And there she is, my lovely wife, Michelle. How are you doing?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fantastic. This is a long connection. Just on the other side of the wall, we had to go to get this done. This is a special day. This is 31 years that you and I have been married. This is our 31st anniversary.
I know. Well, and Boomer has something to say about that. You'll hear him in the background. 31 years is unbelievable. We were just talking this morning how 30 last year, I was gone on our 30th. I was in New York for work. So now here we are living in paradise in Florida and celebrating 31 years.
Yes. You mentioned that we're now living in Florida, and that's, kind of life to me is just a bunch of seasons, and same with marriage. Marriage is a bunch of seasons. So, about almost 2 years ago, almost to the date, we decided to sell our house in Ohio. And I like to call it imperfect action because we had no plan once that house sold in 12 hours. We had 6 weeks to get out with zero plan. And, that to me is the epitome of imperfect action. But we made it work. We eventually made our way down to Florida. We moved from Ohio to Florida this past March. And that's just another season. That's just part of the season of marriage. And, we go through these different seasons. And this is just a new opportunity for us to experience maybe the next 31 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was definitely scary to make a big move like that. I mean, you and I both grew up in Ohio. We were born in Ohio, graduated high school in Ohio, went to Ohio State. Not exactly at the same time. We didn't know each other in college.
Yeah.
We met.
That's a good thing. We probably didn't know each other at Ohio State because we probably wouldn't be married because we were running in definitely some different circles at Ohio State.
Oh, 100% different circles. No way, no how. So, but yeah, I mean, it was definitely a decision that we had to make together because when you're going to uproot your life, now it was a little easier for us being empty nesters for as long as we've been. And for anyone out there, we've been married 31 years. So we got married in 1991 and had to have a babysitter on our 1-year wedding anniversary because we had kids right out of the gate. So at the time, it was pretty challenging and difficult to be such young parents. But I remember one of my coworkers said, but you do understand, yeah, it's tough now, but you guys will be young empty nesters.
Yes.
And it was hard to see that. And now we're living it. So
yes. We have other friends, people that we know that are our age, and they still have children in school, and they still got a ways to go. But yeah, our children are out the door. They're thriving. They're doing well. That's always great to see. That's the thing about being a team, a husband and wife, is you're trying to raise children to be quality young adults. And I think we did that. I mean, it wasn't without challenges, but I think we did it.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely wasn't without challenges. I mean, that's for sure. Any parents will tell you it's not a perfect path. But I think the one thing that we were aligned is we wanted to make sure we could raise them to be out on their own and, create their own path in life. You often hear that it's a revolving door with kids and they're in and out. We maybe had a little bit of that early on with them, but they were pretty independent in terms of getting out there. And that's what you raise them to do.
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean you don't miss them, but, I think there's some commercials on, I can't remember who the brand is, they're crying as the girl is driving off. They packed her car and then they're doing cartwheels and high fives and they immediately changed her room over to, I can't remember what. And I'm like, oh, I relate to that commercial. That was, those are good times. So yeah.
It is. And it's always good to see them thrive, and marriage is, when you take those vows, it's for better or for worse. We've definitely had some better times. We've definitely had some of those worst times. In some of those worst times, I think, we had a child that was on life support for 37 days. And those are those times and those moments in life where you really, if you really are mindful about it, you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about the person you're in it with, and you just learn a lot about life. And some of those lessons I still carry today that I learned, 25 years ago, because that's part of the story of our life. That's part of who we are. And we all have this great story of life to tell. I'm very passionate in that now about trying to empower men to create this identity in themselves, because I think there's a lot of struggle with men, and they've lost that identity in somewhat. In the day that I kind of joke around a little bit, but there's some serious. That day when you stand before on the altar and say "I do," that's when you kind of take that next step into manhood. And another next step in that manhood is, and I don't hate to be so crude when I say this, but when you see a human life coming out of your wife, that changes the game. That changes a lot of things.
No, definitely. I think it's interesting when you say take the vows and I do. There's different phases of your life, and of course we were pretty young at the time. I think I don't know what the stats are. People are waiting till they're older or younger. I think every decade that changes. But I think that yes, there are chapters in our lives in 31 years. I'm sure we'd want to rip the chapter out and throw it away, but it's all part of our story and our testimony of the good times and the bad times. And I think one thing that's really important when you talk about, marriages and empowered, and especially empowered men, is it doesn't mean that you have to give your power away to that other person, or your identity shouldn't be tied up in them. You still need to have, I think that's why you and I are 31 years, is because we each have our own identity. Mm-hmm. We have a mutual respect for what each other wants out of life and accomplishments. And we have plenty of things that we enjoy together, but there are plenty of things that we get satisfaction from on our own. Yeah. And I think that as long as we respect that in each other, that's what keeps a marriage strong.
Yeah, it's creating that balance. I like to say that, we all have a level of masculine energy and feminine energy. Both men and women have that masculine and feminine energy. And, for men, it's obviously they're more the protector. Women are more the nurturer. And I had to learn. I had those conversations along the way. I had to learn how to be that nurturer at times. And just kind of what I like to say is start learning to exercise that empathy muscle, because that's, one thing that men traditionally are not that strong with. But that's just part of that yin and yang, that balance of that feminine and masculine energy that we all possess.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, there no surprise there. Your empathy gene wasn't strong early on in the marriage, but I've also worked with a lot of men through the years too, being in my career, that also didn't have that, what I would consider the high empathy gene. And I think that's something that you don't have to be born with it. You can work on it. And mm-hmm. I think that's one thing that you've done, is you work on yourself and coach other men, is how to tap into that empathy, because empathy is definitely different than sympathy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm totally agree with you on that.
Yeah. So if people can see the back of your wall there, you have a bunch of Disney years. I mean, we've kind of bonded a little bit over, we went on our honeymoon to Disneyland. Someone gave us tickets because we went out to California. Someone gave us tickets to go to Disneyland. So that was really kind of our first trip into the Disney, bubble, the Disney world, Disney life. Our next one was when we took our first child, and I think she was about 18 months old. And we just kind of continued to do that. I know sometimes you might drag me there a little kicking and screaming.
Sometimes I think I dragged you there a lot of times early on with the Disney brand. I love the brand. Rob knows I love that brand, both personally and professionally. I think they're a great company. Yeah, they're not doing, there's a lot of things right now that they are not doing right. But overall, it's so special to our family that our son's even a cast member there. and our daughter was also there for a time, both of them participating in the Disney college program, which we definitely encouraged. But and it's something that I enjoy, that you definitely respect and allow me. It's something we do together. It's also something I do on my own, and you don't stand in the way. But there was another thing that when you said that, when you were talking about empowerment and each of us having our own interests, but it doesn't mean empowered relationships always say yes to everything. I think it's important to learn how to say no.
Yes.
And some men that we know in our own lives personally don't know how to say no to their wives. And that can cause a lot of problems down the road. Now, trust me, everyone out there, I don't like it if Rob says no to me, but I understand it.
But maybe I have a little bit different discernment in something, and that no,
Right.
I know the same with you. Maybe you have different discernment in something, and that no serves me.
Right. Definitely. The other thing, I don't know if you were throwing another question at me, but I think when you were talking about empowered relationships, and the older we get, we're both in our 50s, without exactly giving our age away, is taking care of yourself.
Wow.
And both people in the marriage, in the relationship, and I'm talking physically and mentally and spiritually, taking care of yourself, because you're of no service to each other or anybody in your circle if you're unhealthy. And so that is also something.
We both come from a lineage where we have family members that live well into their 90s. I fully plan on getting to my 90s, and I keep myself in shape. And we both taken up running, we both exercise, we both diet, and that's important. And I'm in my late 50s. I'll say it. I'm 59. And I'm probably in some of the best shape I've ever been in my life. And that's even going back to I was in the military and did sports the whole time when I was growing up. I'm probably in some of the best shape that I am in my life. And it just takes discipline, and it takes dedication, and it takes intention.
Yeah. And, that's another thing in terms of like shared activity. Yes, Rob and I put runners for myself in quotes because I do get out there and run. But my love of Disney is what got me running. Yeah. And actually, that's what I asked Rob. You had been a runner in the military and for several years had not run because of your knee situation, both knees.
I've had 3 knee surgeries.
Yeah, 3 knee surgeries. But there are these things called Run Disney. So they are definitely non-intimidating events for those who just want to get out there and move their bodies. And so that is something that we've done together. No, we don't.
You got me into running by, it was a Thanksgiving Day event. You went ahead and signed me up. It was 4 weeks out. I hadn't run yet. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'm in. It was a 4-mile event. And I had 4 weeks to get ready for it. Did it. And it just kind of taken off since then.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh, that was the Thanksgiving Day. Yeah, the turkey run over in
because one we hadn't. Well, that was our plan to have actually bring some wine to Thanksgiving dinner. So we're just going to go do the run because they gave each of us a bottle of wine. So that was our contribution for the Thanksgiving
you know what?
dinner.
That's an excellent point. Anything can motivate you. I'm motivated. If I can move my camera here, this is what I'm motivated by. You can see in the background there all the bling. Oops, I'm not doing that right because it's right in front of my camera.
You can see them.
But there are, I love getting medals at the end of a race. I don't care how long it takes me to finish, but I want to get the bling.
You're all about the bling when it comes to the race. And I know that I've had many people asking, are you going to sign up for this race? And I just asked, I had to ask, well, if my wife is going to go, there has to be bling. What's the bling associated with the race?
Oh, heck yeah. No, there's got to be something. I have to have a carrot at the end of it. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. I don't run just to run. I want to run for the stuff and the prizes. So,
well, I like I enjoy the bling, but I also enjoy the competition. And I think that's one difference between men and women is that men are just naturally competitive. And, and as I've gotten into running, I compete against myself and I try and make my times better. When I'm out on a course running with somebody, I'll try and run them down if I can and just try and pass them. So I'm always going through that mind, just trying to be competitive. And I kind of try and adapt it in everything I do. I just want to be competitive, either compete against myself or compete against somebody else, because I think that's what forces me to be better, what forces me to kind of excel.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have my own. I mean, I'm competitive in my own way. I mean, I grew up playing sports, so I automatically have that in me. Now, I'm not as competitive against other people anymore as I am with myself. It's interesting in a relationship when you think of empowered marriages and relationships. If you're both super competitive with each other, that could potentially cause issues. But there's also healthy competition,
Yeah.
right, as well. So as long as you kind of keep that in check, it's okay, because I think healthy competition keeps each person motivated to do better and be better.
Okay. And so for those of you who don't know, we live down now in Southwest Florida. 2 weeks ago to the day, Ian was banging on our door. So about this time is when the storm really began. And, we've never been through anything. We both have experienced, blizzards and storms with tornadoes and these things they used to have in Ohio called derechos. There was nothing like what we just experienced with that. That was intense. That was a storm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I hope that's once in a lifetime situation. I mean, we were prepared.
We were prepared.
So that's the other thing. I think the longer you stay married, the more prepared in life you become. To be honest with you, I think there were a lot of times early on in our marriage, I wouldn't say we were prepared for things, because the difference with the hurricane, we saw it coming.
Mhm.
Right. So it wasn't like it was a surprise. It was a surprise that it
It was a surprise that it came. It was a surprise the direction it took. Yeah, that kind of caught a lot of people
it
off
took
guard.
a turn. I think there's a great analogy there when you think of that hurricane and the hurricanes of life. Yeah, it wasn't supposed to hit here. For all of you who watched it, it was going to be north of us in the Tampa area. I mean, I didn't want it to hit anybody or anywhere.
Yeah.
But there was still something that was like, okay, it's not coming right at us. And then it made a turn and it decided to come right at us. Yeah. But we had done the hard work and the preparation. About 90%, you and I had talked about how there are a few things to prepare for the next hurricane that maybe we waited too long, but we did the big preparations, right? We had the hurricane shutters up. We had plenty of water. We stayed in place because we were not in an evacuation zone. We were on the edge of an evacuation zone, but we took the cues from our neighbors and trusted them that we could stay put, and we did. So yeah, I mean, it's something that we experienced together. We got through it. Yeah, there's the aftermath. Of course, there's other areas that are a lot worse than we are, but now you just rebuild and pray that it doesn't, happen again at quite that level.
Yeah. And the irony that I've shared with other people is that the anxiousness we had leading up to it, when it hit, we were the most calm. Right. I mean, I took a couple naps. I mean, we lost our electricity, lost the internet, lost cell phone. We were cut off from the world, other than this little tin can that we were living in temporarily, because you put these storm shutters up, you can't see anything. We had a space about that big that we could see out into the world to see what was going on.
Well, we could hear it though. That
we could definitely hear it.
That was unnerving. But after 8 to 9 hours of it straight, when we looked at each other and said, well, we can't control any of this, right? It was completely out of our control. It had battered us so heavy for so long that I think we both knew the house wasn't going to crumble in on us. Right. So we might as well get some rest.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know what we were going to wake up to. Exactly. We had no idea.
Yeah. So there was no water coming into the house. Water got to about 6 feet from the house. That's when I got a little bit nervous, but I saw it wasn't coming any closer. So I felt comfortable and just went, like I said, took a couple naps, spent 4 hours just reading a book, and went to bed. So that was my plan when the storm was here. So, all right, well, we're coming up on it. I know you got work to do. I need to let you get back at it. You got plenty to do. I got plenty to do. But it was great to have you on today. And it's the 31 years have gone by fast. And I hope we have 31 more years that go by, and just that we continue to build each other up and create this next great chapter in our life stories together. And
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Happy anniversary. I love you. And thank you for asking me to be on today.
All right. Well, I love you too. Yeah. So that's all we have for today. Glad you could join us. And we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.